the recording. There we go. If you ask any questions or you say anything and you don't want it to be included in this recording, then just let Ben or myself know afterwards, and we will obviously remove you from that. So, usual sort of format that we've done the last couple of times. So there's a bit of information from us. Feel free to ask questions. If you do want to ask questions, if you can use the raise the hand feature, that really helps us, particularly as there's a good number of you on the call today. Um, there's a section where we want to have a bit of a discussion with you on a couple of points as well. And then there is a Q&A section at the end. Okay, so we're going to start with a couple of items around rules clarification. And these are a couple of rules. There's a couple more on the next screen as well that come up on a regular basis in terms of queries. So we just want to take you through those and make sure that you understand that. Because if you remember, most races don't have race referees. Um, and the race director becomes the referee. So you are the person or people that are responsible for making sure the rules are followed. If you remember, adjudicators are there to report and feedback, but they're not there to disqualify, act on. They can give you advice, but that is down to you guys. So we're just going to touch on the first one here. And I know we've got potentially a few updates coming through in the rule book in April 2026, but these aren't rules that we're expecting to change as part of it. So the first one is to do with pacing and assistance at races. So it's Rule TR 6.3. They always have catchy titles. For the purposes of this rule that you can see on the screen there, the following examples shall be considered assistance and are therefore not allowed. So pacing in races by persons not participating in the same race, by athletes due to be lapped or already lapped, or by any technical device other than those permitted in 6.4.4, which we'll come on to in a minute. So what that means is, and we've seen this at races, a club mate will jump in with another runner and try and pace them to a specific time, or someone will join on a bike, or a coach might be doing something, and that's not allowed in a race because it is giving assistance to an individual and not the entire race. So you can, as an organizer, obviously organize paces for the benefit of everybody taking part. You will make it known to all of the people taking part that the pacers are available. But in this situation, because it's one person helping another, it's not allowed. The technical bit there, the 6.4.4, means that you can have or an individual can wear a heart rate or speed distance monitor, stride sensors, similar devices carried or worn by athletes or runners during an event, provided the device can't be used to communicate with others. So for that, that's rule book speak there. We're talking about the watches that a lot of us own, be it whatever brand they are, that are giving them feedback on heart rate, their average pace, their stride, that sort of stuff. That's allowed because we know that a lot of runners like those things, and it's useful to them. And when it talks about provided the device cannot communicate with others, that's really around being able to contact a coach or for a coach to give feedbacks or someone on the sideline saying, oh, you need to catch this person or you need to run quicker or whatever it is. So that part of it's unlikely to happen. I know some of the wearable devices, you can see WhatsApp messages coming in off the screen. Difficult to obviously police that. It's probably unlikely to happen. But just so you're aware of that. The second one I wanted to cover here is TR5 section 1, which is around clothing. And we get this sort of relatively regular. So we'll just go through it and then we'll explain it. So in team or relay races, all competitors must wear registered vests, all the same design and colour, of vests or t-shirts in the team unless the referee is given permission for the change to be made. So we won't go on to the bullet point, just deal with that at the moment. So that means in your local races that you're putting on or larger races, if you've got a team or relay competition, then the rule says the same coloured vests, same design vests. The club vest doesn't have to be the vest that is registered with EA, because we know that there are some clubs and teams that people will have put together on a localized basis to take part in an event. Of course, you're the referee in most cases for race directors at a large number of the events that take place across the country. So if as race director, you're willing to relax the rule, and we get it where in some cases clubs, not everyone's wearing the club vest. That's fine. If you're happy as the race director at this localized level, that's fine. It's not a problem. If you decide at your race you want them all to wear the official vest, the club vest, as long as you've put it in your terms and conditions for that team competition and that everybody knows about it, you can obviously enforce that and then not count those who aren't wearing the correct vest and following that. The exception in all cases to this is the bullet point below it. So if it's a county championships or higher level, whether that's area, regional, national, international, then the team competition must wear, each person must wear the registered vest that's been approved by England Athletics, or if it's international, one of the other home countries. So there is a distinction. So below county level, it's the discretion of the race director. County championship or higher has to be the EA vest. So quite simple. A lot of people don't realise the extent of that rule. So we just wanted to cover that off. These ones are quite long, so I didn't rewrite them. I took the screenshot from the rule book. So we're going to deal with the one on the left of the screen there. Apologies for the black line between the I and the R on wheelchairs. When I took the screenshot, unfortunately, it picked that up. So this concerns wheelchairs and buggies. And we know, obviously, there are wheelchairs that take part, buggies that are in races. So we'll just cover the first point on there. So the pushing of persons in any device is not permitted in any race held under UK athletics rules, with the exception that a competition provider, so that's you guys as race directors, may, after due consideration within the risk assessment process, determine that a pushed wheelchair or buggy that's designed for running, so not your shopping push chair that you're going to take round the local supermarket, but a buggy that's specifically designed for running, may be accommodated towards the rear of the event on the condition that the event meets Run Britain licence standards. The rule book will be updated to say RunEvents, England Athletics, and the participant is not attempting to compete against others. So what that means in layman's terms and non-rule book talk, if you like, is you can allow buggies that are specifically designed for running or wheelchairs if you've done a safety and risk assessment and you've determined from that safety and risk assessment that your route, your event is safe for them. If it's not safe, you are absolutely entitled to say no. And whichever decision you make, we will 100% support that. What you should do is make sure that they are starting to the rear of the field, and that they're not competing in the way that a runner would if they hadn't got that buggy or wheelchair there. Obviously, you might have para people taking part. That's a different setup. But we're talking about wheelchairs that are pushed in this particular rule. So you just need to be careful with that. Competing is an interesting one, and the rear of the field is debated, is a bit of a debate. So we've actually raised a query with the rules group around that because we know that sometimes people who are pushing perhaps a buggy with a child in that's designed for running may actually what's fast or sorry, not fast for them might be quick for someone else. You could still get someone with a buggy who, in a 10K, for example, is going to go around in 36 minutes. So if they're at the rear, even though they're not competing as such, there's going to be a lot of people that they're going to go past. So we've queried that with the rules group. They're meeting next week, so we should have an update from that. And not attempting to compete. We've asked for a bit of definition around that as well. We've had a number of queries in that respect. What is competing? What's not competing? Most people are trying to get a time. Is that competing? Yeah, sure. You don't want them on the front row of your race doing that sort of thing. So slightly tricky that one, but just so you understand, some people are concerned if they say no to buggies or wheelchairs that there'll be some kind of problem. There won't be, provided you've done that safety and risk assessment. There is obviously the participation of wheelchair athletes and frame runners, again, subject to your risk assessment. If you need help with the risk assessments for either of the two conditions in one or two, let us know. We can tell you the sort of things that you should be looking at. We can help guide you through that process, but you know your route and your event better than we ever could. So you are the people that need to do the assessment, but we can help you with what needs to be considered within that. The third point there is the carrying of a child by any participant. So that some people read that initially, and we queried it with our legal people and our insurance people. Carrying a child is physically carrying them. So it could be carrying them in front of them, it could be in a backpack, some kind of holder, if you like, that is attached to the person. Carrying is not them sitting in the pushchair or the buggy, I should say, designed for running. It's physically doing it. So that's not allowed in any situation. The final one we wanted to just address is headphones. And we know it's always a hotly contested rule, this one, and one that causes lots of grief for lots of people. So we thought we'd just go through the wording that exists within it. And again, this is not likely to change anytime soon. So the wearing of headphones or similar devices is not permitted on any shared usage courses. And by shared usage courses, we're talking about ones that are, but not limited to, open roads, parks, recreation grounds, seafront proms, public footpaths, or any other such areas where those who are not participating in the race may be present. In this rule book, which came out in 2024, we did slightly strengthen it to the wording that is featured here. So before, it was only if it was an open road, but we recognise that there's a lot of events that take place in public parks, seafront proms, and some of those areas we've mentioned in the rule there, where there could be dog walkers, cyclists, or any other myriad of people not involved in the race. So people need to be able to hear what's going on. So we did strengthen it slightly. So just make sure you're familiar with that. You can, let's take it back a step. Headphones that work by conducting sound through bone, so bone conducting headphones. And here's the key. Do not sit in or on the ears. Are acceptable, but must leave the ear clear of obstructions to hear. Okay, so we know there are some new headphones that claim to be bone conducting that actually sit on the ear. You can't tell whether they're the new ones that are bone conducting or the old ones that weren't bone conducting, or whether they're noise cancelling. They're not. If they're on the ear or in the ear, they're not allowed. And obviously that is available for anyone to be able to see. You can strengthen the rule if you wish to. That's not a problem. If you decide you want no headphones in your race and you've done your assessment and you think the safest option is no headphones at all, you are completely within your right to do so. You can't weaken the rule, you can strengthen the rule. The exception, and there is an update to the bit where it says other than medically prescribed, it now says in the amendment that unfortunately isn't in the same paragraph, that other than those recommended by a medical professional. So we know that there's people with autism, ADHD, some hearing difficulties where a medical professional will have recommended the use of headphones for running to help them cope with their individual needs at the race. We changed that because there was a situation where medically prescribed was challenged at a race. Doctors don't prescribe headphones, but they may recommend the usage of it, hence the slight change to the wording there. But the runners do need to declare it to you because otherwise you don't know. You could disqualify them for that because they haven't told you. So they need to tell you in advance. And we just wanted to clarify as well what closed road means, because there was, again, we've had a number of queries. What is closed? What's not closed? So a closed road or course is defined as that closed by a TTRO, temporary traffic regulation order, or other notice issued by the local authority or highways authority. And we know there are some local authorities and highways authorities that use slightly different legislation, hence why we say or other notice. Within that, there may be stipulations about how the road is to be closed or how the measures are in place. They might specify barriers or cones, advanced warnings, and you need to make sure you follow all of those. We do recognise that if you close a road, there could be some people that come off driveways into the roadway, but obviously the roadway is defined as closed. The only thing you can do with that is to have regular marshals there. It doesn't change it from a closed road to an open road. It's still a closed road. But obviously we know that it's not necessarily practical to have someone at the end of every driveway to enforce it. So regular marshals. So hopefully that makes sense. I know there's a couple of people mentioned in the chat. We're just looking at here. So we've got here someone who was just asking a question about the push chairs there, Paul Smith. That might be Paul Smith, the regional chair, possibly. As you don't always come across issues until the day, does the risk assessment you carry out have to be in writing? No, because dynamic risk assessments do exist. So if you find there's an individual circumstance that on the day presents itself and as part of your dynamic risk assessment, that means that buggies or wheelchairs are not allowed, then you can enforce that on the day. We'd ask you to obviously write it up afterwards, but not a problem. Someone's asked about the pacing. Is it allowed if a runner enters the same race and paces another athlete for the whole or part of the race? Not if they've entered specifically to pace. I mean, we know that people do run with each other. It's a good question. It is a form of assistance. I think you just have to use your judgment a little bit on that, to be honest. I know that's perhaps not a definitive answer. Someone else has asked, if your race referee does not appear on the day, can the RD then step in as race referee? Majority of races don't have a race referee. So the majority of the time, the race director is already the race referee. If you have appointed a race referee, and remember, this is a different role to an adjudicator. If you've appointed a race referee and they don't show up, yeah, sure, not a problem. Bear in mind, if it's county championships or higher, you have to have a race referee there. So that would mean theoretically county results, area results, regional results would not stand because the race referee is not there. But remember, race referee is not an adjudicator. If you're not sure of that and you need some further guidance on that, we won't cover it right now. We can go through it with you and give you some more information on that. Then we've got someone, Joanna, if they're declaring medical headphones in advance of the race, do they need to produce evidence? Otherwise, what's to stop them from just declaring them as they prefer to run with headphones? Normal procedure would be, yes, Joanna, is if they've been recommended it by a medical professional, that medical professional will have written that down somewhere. They should be able to provide that to you. Otherwise, you're right. Everyone would just say, I've got this problem or this issue, and you wouldn't know. You can usually tell from it, but that's fine. Mike, well, I can see we've just answered your question about race referee and race adjudicator there. And yeah, we can add airfields to the list where headphones is banned because there might be other people in that area. Please, can you clarify whether a race adjudicator has the authority to disqualify runners for breaching the headphone rules? No, because the adjudicator cannot disqualify anyone for any rule breach. The adjudicator is there to report back feedback. If you see as an adjudicator, or if an adjudicator that's obviously will be at your race, they can give you a list of people that they have seen wearing headphones and say, these are the people who've been wearing headphones that are not permitted. But then you as the race director are the person that will actually disqualify them. They may well put in their report, obviously, that there were people doing it. So if they flag that you didn't disqualify them, then we'll be taking that up with you, but you are the people that actually do it. So if your adjudicators walking around saying you're disqualified, no, they can't do that. Okay, so we'll move on to the next section. So this is a bit of a discussion topic, and I say if you can use your hands during this, it really helps us with managing the discussion, especially as there's over 50 of you on the call. So the discussion topic here, you'll all be aware of the £2 affiliated race discount that exists for athletes and runners, and I certainly can't remember a time where the £2 wasn't in place. And has always been £2, as far as I know. So at the moment, we wanted to reach out to you as race directors and say, do we think the £2 is still the right thing to have? Should that £2 be a different amount? Should there be other rewards that we're giving to club members? If that £2 was to increase, what would your reaction be to it? So we're really interested in knowing your views on this particular issue and this topic. We haven't made any decisions at all. I will stress that completely. We are just examining, taking an opportunity to examine, is that the right thing for us to carry on doing? Do we leave it alone? Do we change it? Some of you who are eagle-eyed might have spotted Scotland have decided to make a change from the 1st of April. We're not supporting that. We are doing nothing until we've spoken to you. So it'd be really good to hear from some of you. So if any of you've got any thoughts around that this evening, that would be really great. Peter Chubb, you're first out the gate.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that it's a £2 minimum. So on some of our races, we've actually done more.
Yes.
Because I think £2 is, it's not even a price of don't even get you half a coffee these days, does it? So,
No, that's true.
I mean, I think, personally, I think we should be pushing membership and benefits of membership. So yeah, I do more personally. And maybe it should be related to the price of a race, not £2 across the board, 10% of a race fee or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea with different price points in races, maybe having something slightly different. You're right, the rule does say minimum of £2. That's great. Thank you for that. Martin Slyfield, you're next.
Oh yeah, we were just having this conversation the other day actually, with it being
Oh,
going to £23 for the affiliation at £2 discount. That's you having to do like 12 races a year to take advantage of paying the affiliation fee. And some of our members were like, well, what's the benefit? So I think, is it too little? Should it be more now that affiliation's gone up to 23?
Yeah, and Martin, just to, to put you on the spot for a moment, if it wasn't £2, should it be what what would you do? Would you do three, four?
Yeah, I was going. I'm just doing a bit of number crunching, and if it was three, eight races a year seems a bit more achievable for those that
Mm,
don't want to run every month
yeah.
or do an event every month. But 8 races in a year or events in a year seems, for the keen ones that want to affiliate, seems a bit more reasonable.
Yeah, yeah, no, okay, that's an interesting viewpoint. Um, it is also, and we know we need to do this. We need to communicate better to our membership what all the benefits are. And from the 1st of April, there's a whole load more benefits coming in, and some of you may be aware of it on the call. But from the 1st of April, there'll be things like 40% off Garmin watches, and a whole load, about another 40 benefits go live. So it is up to us to communicate that, obviously. So we'll put that in the melting pot there as well, of course. Thank you. Caroline Edwards, I can see two of you there. I'm assuming that's not just you haven't multiplied.
No, I haven't multiplied. We don't spawn, honestly. I think as a runner, you'd want more than £2. But as a race organizer slash race director, I think £2 feels palatable to be able to sell to England athletics members and casual runners. So it's a bit of a dilemma, really. Maybe £3 might be a bit nicer. I liked what somebody said about the 10% as well. I thought that was probably a good idea.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because as you rightly say, as race directors, there's a differential between your unaffiliated and your affiliated rate. So your affiliated runners are paying a bit less, whether that's £2, £3, 10%. But you're getting less money for them, but you want to incentivize the club runners. I don't know that there's a perfect solution, which is why it's good to hear from you guys. Yeah, maybe a percentage, who knows? Anyone else want to come in on that, Martin? I don't know whether your hand is from before, is it? That's from before. Okay, no problem. Anyone else want to pop in? We've got some comments come up in the chat here. Louise, you're saying £2 feels like quite a small discount given that entries are going up through the years. Maybe make a percentage. That's another one on percentage there. Andrew Bibby's in favour of sticking with the £2. Yeah, I mean, it's true to say entry fees are going up, but partly because race costs are going up. It's not necessarily, I don't think there's many race directors driving around in Porsches and Ferraris. Um, if they are, I want to know how they're managing to do it. Anne is keep the £2. Tim is stick with the £2. Alexander, I run a small charity event, £2, not a small amount. If the amount was going to be increased, I would suggest it becomes a percentage. I agree with the speaker a few moments ago. Yeah, interesting. That's a good point there. A lot of charities organised races, so every lost income in entry fees is potentially an issue for them. Gareth, should there be a maximum amount as well as a minimum? Perhaps. We actually did, as England Athletics, we actually did a £10 off with the Manchester Half Marathon for a limited number of spaces. So obviously Manchester Marathon has 25,000 people. And for a limited period, for a limited number of places, you could get £10 off their standard price, be it wasn't off their early bird price. It was quite a way through their booking period, and obviously it gets more expensive as it goes through. I don't know, maybe there's something like that. Annabelle, I feel that a small increase would be a nice thing. Agree that related to the price of the race would be improved. Entries range between 15 to 100. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a massive divergence in prices. What we also notice looking at the whole country, obviously, is that Obviously, London races are a lot more expensive. Some of the other city races are. If you go into the northeast, and we're generalising here, race fees tend to be a bit less, as they are in Lincolnshire. So we do notice regional differences in pricing. So it's an interesting one. Another one saying theirs is a charity event, £2 discount rack up, and that could be money going to the charity. Alexander, you're right. Affiliation offers far greater benefits than just a discount scheme. And that's up to us to communicate. And certainly we are looking at a comms piece and package and everything that goes with that. Before we do anything, we'll be talking more about the benefits. Percentage makes the most sense. Another one on percentage. Anne saying apparently it's £5 triathlon. The difference between I didn't actually realise that. It's been a while since I looked at triathlon pricing. Where are we? Percentage would be a nightmare unless race entries were a round amount, like £20, 10% of £27. Yeah. So it's a good point. And then do you round it up or do you round it down? Angus, can a race director give a race discount more than £2? We've answered yes, you can. The rule actually says a minimum of £2 discount. If you find, I don't know what page it's on, but there. Steve Wyatt, I think the reality is that the race costs are largely fixed, and a greater discount for EA would simply drive up the entry fee by a commensurate amount, so the EA athlete wouldn't necessarily be better off. That is something I'd thought about actually before the call when I was thinking, what would you say? You might find it pushes entry fees up in order to subsidise it. So actually, you're not better off. It's an interesting one. Community-focused events that get people running in clubs, etc. We wouldn't want to discourage that. So perhaps if you've got lesser amount of club runners, does it mean your club runner price stays the same and your unaffiliated price goes up? I think is the point there. So does it push it outside of your everyday runner? Not everyone in a club wants to race. We've got there. And so some interesting views there. Is there anyone else that wants to come off mute on that topic at all? No? Okay. We'll be doing lots of outreach to lots of race directors. Conscious there's 50 odd of you on the call here. We have got a lot more. So we will be doing some research and there'll be some stuff going out. And it might be at the end of it that we say £2 is the right solution, or the minimum as it exists, right, as it is today. But we want to make sure that we've reviewed it properly. But that will only be done after we've spoken to you guys, and we'll speak to runners as well to get their view on it, because they're part of the picture. If we suddenly give you loads more runners for all of your events, that'd be great. Andrew has just asked on a slightly related point, do we feel that commission charged by race entry services is fair? It's related, you're right. And pretty much every registration system charges some kind of processing fee. Can be anything from just a few percent up to double digit. We know that there are a number of commercial registration systems that will sell your entries for you and charge you 15 to 20% commission. So there's a whole massive thing. And the thing is, in an unregulated market where anyone can set up a registration system, there's always going to be variances. And all we'd say to that is make sure you do your homework, check what different systems offer you, what features there are, how much they're charging for it, and weigh up who's going to give you the best service, both in terms of features, but also support if you're struggling with the system, and what are they charging for it. Oh yeah, Louise has just said in relation to those commercial listings, depends on what sort of promotion they can offer by adding you to their race listings. It does. There's lots of services, aren't there? We know that, find a race, let's do this, run ABC, offer lots of options for race listings, different fees attached to them. So yeah, it's just a case of looking through. Okay, so moving on to system updates. Obviously, we've got the RunEvents system where you all put your licenses in and go through that. It's been April 2024 it launched. Nice few bumps along the way to start with, but functioning pretty well now. And we've got lots of things that will be coming through. In the immediate future, there are just a couple of updates that will be going through. Those of you who are applying for their licenses will notice it's not live yet. We'll let you know when it is live. You'll remember the grid that you get at the beginning with about 12 boxes on for different license types. We found a way to condense that down to 4 and still offer you the same features. We'll obviously tell you before it happens, but you'll see the number of boxes will be reduced down to those 4, which will make it much easier for you to work out which one to press. That's an enhancement to the system that will make it easier for you to understand. And there'll be a different way of uploading your event files. It's really easy, but different, which is like your risk assessments, your route maps, and all of that stuff. It'll be much easier for you to do that. And again, we'll send out some notes on that. There will be some other things coming through, but they will take a bit longer to come through. But we'll keep you appraised of updates as they're coming through. We will update the how-to guides as we go through, and you'll know that in the resources section, if you go to resources, race directors, you can find the how-to guides in there, which give you the step-by-step processes, as well as all your fact sheets, risk assessment templates, that kind of thing. Mike Towner, you've got a question. Don't forget to take yourself off mute, Mike. You're still on mute, Mike.
Is my voice coming through okay now?
Yes, it is now. Yeah, thank you.
One suggestion there, if I might, it might be relevant. I've been requesting license for a large number of years, and I know we have to supply various files. But these seem to keep changing. For many years, I've put in what has been required, but the last 3 or 4, I've got coming back from the area licensing official wanting more and more files that have never supplied before. The last lot was a permission letter from local authorities. I had it, so I forwarded it, no problem. But can I suggest that we actually put a list on there of the files you want with the licensing?
Yes,
so we
that's
don't
not
go
a
a back
problem.
and forth thing.
Yeah.
This list of files from my area seems to be increasing almost every other month.
We do know that there are some regional variances, which is probably what you're referring to, Mike, where certain regions ask for more. We have had a conversation with the regional chairs, just so the race directors understand there's 9 regions across the country that each have a chair and vice chair in. So there's 18 people across the country that are viewing it in split between those 9 regions, 2 per region. We have had a conversation about making sure that it is standardized and that it's all happening. But yes, in direct answer to your question, we can put a list of the documents that we would like to see on the system. In most cases, they are actually optional, and we'll only ask for them if we need them. So if you're doing a new event, obviously we're going to scrutinize it a little bit more than if you've been holding the same event for the last 20 years and we've never had any problems with it, unless there's been a change in legislation, in which case we'd obviously tell you. But yeah, not a problem, Mike. Just moving on then, age group changes. This came in from when we sent out the invite to join the webinar today. We said, were there any items that you wanted to raise? And we know, obviously, the age group changes that have been ongoing for a while that come in from the 1st of April 2026. For a lot of road running, everyday road running, there's not a huge impact other than which age category they sit in and which one they compete in. But the specific query was around the race distances. And whether the age group changes meant that the race distances and the age you need to be to run the distance was changing. The simple answer is no. So it will still be 11 years old to do a 5K, 15 years old to do a 10K, and 17 for a half marathon, and obviously all the intermediate distances. So there'll be no change to that. They might be in a different age group to what they were before because they'll all be even age groups, but it's the day of the event. The age they are on that day entitles them to run that distance. Obviously, as a race director, you might say on an open road course, you don't want an 11-year-old running 5K and you want to make it 13 or 15. You can increase it, but you can't go below that level. So no change is the simple answer to that one. Junior race prizes, somebody asked, is there an age that you should start junior prizes from or to? It's down to you as the race organizer to decide that. If you want to make it up to 20 or 18 or 16 or 14, or you want 3 or 4 different, that is your choice there, of course. Mike, have you got another question for us? Take yourself off mute. Need to come off mute, Mike.
My apologies.
That's
On
all right.
10K 15, if I apply, is there any possibility of an acceptance for running quarter marathons for under 15s, which are only 280 meters longer, I think? In our own particular area, we have a lot of quarter marathons, which for the moment we can't accept as our junior events in the area league.
So quarter marathon.
Quarter marathon is what, 200, 300 odd meters longer than a 10K.
There's no grey area on it.
No grey area. Okay, end of question then.
Yeah, sorry. I know that's not the answer you want, but it is what it is. Right, we'll just come on to the next point there, measurement certificate renewals. Those of you who've got measured road races will be familiar with the Association of UK Course Measurers and the measurement certificate that gets issued to you as part of the process that you go through to certify that distance. And a measurer will come out on a bicycle with their Jones counter and they will certify that distance and say, yes, it is 10K, it is half a marathon. From the date that that measurement is made, which is going to be before the event, remember, it's valid for 10 years from that date. So if your race is on the 1st of October and it's measured on the 10th of July this year, for 10 years, that measurement will be valid, provided that you haven't changed the course, there's no other changes to it, and you can still follow that exact measurement as part of your race setup. Currently, you then have to go onto the Association of UK Course Measurers website and renew that certificate. Most races are once a year. We know there are some that are more than that. And you have to submit your next race date for it. So you've got to have the current race date on it. We are planning from the 1st of January to do away with that administration exercise. So you won't need to go onto the course measurer's website from the 1st of January and put the next race date in, provided it's within the 10-year validity of the certificate. You will need to tick a box on the licensing system to say that you're using the measured course and that you have access to that measurement report, of course. But it will mean you won't need to then go away to a different website and tell them the same information that you've already told us. We're just getting final ratification on that from the rules group next week. But they've said to us they don't see that being any issue at all. So it'll be one less task that you need to do. But obviously you need to make sure you followed that measured course. So hopefully that'll make life a bit easier for you. Paul Smith, it was Paul Smith from the region earlier then. East Midlands chair, go for it, Paul.
Yeah, just on that. So with the certificates not being renewed for the race, it's going to be for 10 years. Do these, when they put their application in for the license, are they still going to be putting the copy so we can see that they've got a 10-year license?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll still be on there. So still upload it on there. You'll have the copy. The Association of UK Course Measurers will change the certificate slightly as well. So it says a start date and an end date on it. We know that there will be some people who've already renewed them for next year. So obviously, if they've already done it, it's fine. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
It will have that current race date on. But when they do it in the future, obviously, it'll have a start date and an end date.
Yeah. I have got another question, but do you want me to do that in any other business?
Now you can do it now, Paul.
Yeah, it's just to all race directors really that when they are filling the license application in, that we're tasked for upload evidence, that they actually do upload some evidence, because, for example, local authority approval, they tick yes, but don't upload any evidence. Same with the medical stuff. Then we need names in there and a company, not just a running club or a name from a running club. Because then if it's just a name, we'll be asking the questions, well, what qualifications have they got? What equipment have they got available to them on the day? So it's just an heads up for everybody, just to help us.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Paul. That's good. And gives me a chance. Something I didn't put on here is we have started our medical review as well. As you know, the medical standards have been the same for some time now. We do have a working group that is looking at the medical standards. We don't know what it will be, and we're not going to preempt what it will be. That'll be a process that goes on for a number of months. Until we reach the end of the period, and then we'll issue the new guidance once it's available to you. So thanks for that segue, Paul. So Paul Wood, you're next with a question.
Yeah, it relates back to the vests, Barry.
Oh, the club vests, yeah.
Yeah, if a runner has a national vest, as long as it's declared to the race referee, they can still be included as part of a team.
Yes.
And not a lot of people realise that if
Yeah,
you've got a
if they're a
GB
GB
vest
athlete, for
or
example.
an England vest or whatever, you can run in that as part of a team as long as it's declared to the race referee before the event starts.
Yeah, because they can make the relevant note. And if there's no race referee, obviously that's declared to the race director who is acting as the race referee.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Paul. Okay, so we're now at the point in the agenda where we open the floor to you guys. And I know we sort of done that a little bit as we've been going through as well. Are there any questions? We've got, what have we got about? 8 or 9 minutes left in our slot. So if you've got any questions, now is a great time to do that. Peter Chubb, you were first out the gate before.
Yeah, I like to win races.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just a quick one. I was contacted by a school that put on a race annually.
Okay.
I think in the past they did get a license and put on a race. In the last few years, they haven't been able to get a license, partly because it changed hands to somebody else. Obviously, they're not a affiliated club and everything. Can they actually apply for a race license and do it through the system, or are they sort of barred from doing that because they're just a school who put on a race once a year?
No, they can. It's a good question. So if you could as a school you could become an affiliate, what we call an affiliated event promoter.
Right.
So they pay the 205, I think, is the current affiliation fee. If I know it's going up in April, I can't remember what it's going up to. They pay the current affiliation fee, which is the same fee for an event promoter as a club. So you pay that fee, and then you'd be set up on the RunEvents system, and you could apply for a license.
Okay.
Okay.
Because obviously they've just been sort of going around the website looking for information and struggling to find anything.
Yeah, if you get them to drop us an email to runevents@englandathletics.org, we can get someone to guide them through that, get them affiliated, get them set up, and we're happy to help them through that process.
Okay, that's great. One other quick question. You
Yeah,
mentioned
by all
earlier
means.
about the age group, the rules changing on the 1st of April, and then said there were no real changes.
I'm going to be shocked for saying that, but go on.
Well, I'm just wondering what was changing on the 1st of April then, if nothing's really changing.
Okay, so currently, and it obviously has a much greater effect to cross-country track and field in terms of the everyday working of the sport. Um, so currently it's under 11, under 13, under 15, under 17. That is changing to under 10, under 12, under 14, under 16, and under 18. So in a track and field scenario, that obviously means they, for the weights, measures, hurdles, toppling weights, all that sort of stuff that's kind of the everyday of track and field. And those of you who are officials will, will obviously understand that. That's meant a lot of changes for those because what weights you throw, what toppling weight you have on a hurdle is obviously all changed. In some cases the same, and because a lot of track and field competitions and cross countries are done in those age groups, some people who would have moved to the next age group staying in the age group, someone who would have moved up hasn't moved up. So there's a lot more complexities. I'm not a track and field expert. I can see Paul Smith grinning in the background there, who is much more of an expert at track and field than I am. So a lot more changes for them because they operate everything in those age groups.
Okay, thanks.
Mike Towner.
Yeah. Sorry to come on again. I'm here
That's all right.
on behalf of the Dorset Road Race League. The last meeting we had a number of clubs, predominantly people who were not running clubs, declined to hold races for the forthcoming year, as they felt there was overemphasis on personal liability for race directors. And I'm being asked to recall this meeting, which we are, to circulate to those, to ask your comments as to where the personal liability lies with race directors personally.
Yes. Okay. So obviously as a race director, you have a certain liability as the named individual that is responsible for that race for your given organization. So the first level of liability sits with the organization because it is the organization putting that event on. And obviously we protect all of those organizations through our insurance because you are all affiliated with us. We have an additional policy in place, which is directors and officers liability insurance. So that covers race directors because you're an affiliated organization, but members of committees that are at clubs, that kind of thing as well. So if in your case, Mike, somebody said, Mike Towner put this in place at this race and this caused this to happen, that's when the directors and officers liability insurance kicks in and we will protect you as an individual should there be a legal challenge, claim, or otherwise. That is what that insurance is for. We can obviously forward you those details of that insurance. It is part of the overarching policy that we have, but as a separate policy to the public liability insurance of the £50 million that sits that generally protects the event. This is an additional policy that protects individual officers.
Thank you.
No problem. Anyone else for a question? Paul Wood.
Okay, Barry, just a clarification on the closed road bit. So all roads that lead onto the course must be marshalled and barriered?
Yeah, whether the barrier is a cone or a physical crowd control type barrier or road barrier, yes, you do need something that is preventing the cars just driving straight out of that road. Could be a couple of cones with a road closed sign on it. It could be a physical metal barrier, plastic barrier, or similar, like you'd see at roadworks, for example. The insurers have suggested that it's a good idea to have road ahead closed signs as well. And they say that it's recommended, but not necessarily compulsory to have a sign that says it's, there's a road race happening, or there's runners in the road, race in progress, because we all know, unfortunately, there's 101 different roadworks on our road network now. And I'm sure, if you were to go out now, you'll reach some temporary traffic lights or road closure somewhere where they're digging it up. So the context helps with the management of it. If they know that there's a race in progress, they're less likely to drive past that road ahead closed and cause an issue at a road closure point.
Okay, and my other one, someone had put in the comments about if a runner turns up on the day with a buggy, could you then refuse them entry or rescind their entry? And would you need to have a written risk assessment ready to show them?
I mean, if you've already determined in advance that it's not safe for buggies, you would obviously already have that risk assessment. You don't have to show them that risk assessment. You can tell them you've done a risk assessment, and that from that risk assessment, you've determined that it's not safe. If in the case of, I think it was Paul Smith that mentioned it, that on the day of the event, I don't know, perhaps the road you were going to use has suddenly got roadworks in place, which means that it's now not safe for the buggies. Your dynamic risk assessment might determine that it is no longer safe for the buggies to take place. And you don't physically have to write that on a bit of paper to show them. We'd expect you to write that up afterwards in case of any queries, but you don't actually have to show them the written paperwork.
That's great.
Okay, David Hale has mentioned medical standards in the chat there. Suggests the new written documents state clearly all types of race they apply to. In my case, it's 100% off public roads in a big deer park, half trail, half metal. Yes, we have actually in the initial meeting that we've had on that, we've said that the current documents say road race medical standards, and that's not always the situation. So there'll be a clear definition of what applies to where. If it's a multi-terrain race, it may be that as part of this review, there's a slightly different set of medical standards, because we know access requirements, getting to a casualty can be quite different. So that will be there as part of it. Lauren has asked about medical plans as well, based on current, it's approved by the Safety Advisory Group ahead of the update and the medical review by EA. Then the review changes it. Would we be required to meet the new rules? That's a good question. We haven't actually considered the exact answer to that. I guess it depends to what extent we move the medical guidelines. We're unlikely to retrospectively apply conditions to a license, whether it's medical or otherwise, because if at the time of doing your license, we've agreed that that was acceptable, unless there was a significant reason for us to request that a change is made, we're unlikely to do so. I can't preempt exactly what's going to be in the medical standards, so it's a little bit blind on that, but I doubt we would retrospectively apply it unless there was some legislation that forced us to do so.
Barry, can I jump in without sticking my hand up, because I can't find the way to do it?
Yes, Tim, go for it.
It concerns SAGs.
Okay.
I sit on one SAG and in the past have sat on 4 others.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very different in nature. Some are just, well, send us the forms in. Yeah, fine. No sweat. Off you go. Others are, well, we'll look at the I's and we'll cross the T's and we'll dot each sentence, and they go through it with a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
The one in Dorset is actually extremely sensible. Look, we don't understand what you're saying here. Please come and talk to us or phone us or something. And I've had instances where a runner said, "Well, the SAG won't approve that," and I said, "Well, they bloody well have, so get on with it."
Yeah, I mean, it is true to say that there are inconsistencies in SAG groups across the country. Some of them will not essentially not look much at it, or indeed look at it at all if they classify it as low level.
Yeah,
Um, we do have a parliamentary group that we're part of, and obviously we talk to the Home Office on a regular basis as well, around trying to align the standards across the country and approaches across the country. It's got to come from central government, really, that to filter
yeah.
down to make sure that there's that even-handed approach.
I, for what it's worth, I was a member of Hertfordshire SAG when Buncefield went bang.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was quite an exciting week. Um,
Yes.
it and I help the Dorset SAG because people know what I've done in the past. And of the two, believe it or not, I think I would prefer the Dorset version, which is let's laissez-faire. You're all common sense. You're all over 21. Let's go from there.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'm conscious we're just slightly over time now, so I'll just a couple of points in the chat I just want to cover there. Angus has said our SAG insists they do not give approval, they advise. That's right. Some do take that
Yeah,
approach. And they say, whilst we're giving approval to the event, we don't have any further questions to ask. That is obviously down to their individual legal advice there. Martin's Law was just mentioned by one person there. We're unsure to the extent it will affect um, individual events. We have someone on the Home Office working group that's part of it. We don't need to take any immediate action. The theory is that there'll be a 2-year bedding in process. Anyway, we will issue guidelines and advice around it once we've concluded with the Home Office working groups what it means specifically for running. Okay, we've got time for one more question from Paul.
Just a quick one, just a recommendation and shout out for anybody that hasn't been on one of the race directors courses. My recommendation is that you will learn a lot. You get the opportunity to talk to other race directors, and it's extremely useful.
Yeah, absolutely. There are race director courses across the country happening throughout the whole year. The information about that is on the website. You can also drop us an email to RunEvents@englandathletics.org, and we can give you a list of the dates. But we do put them on the England Athletics social media as well. They are really good courses, so it's definitely worth doing. Okay, so we're out of time on that. We will be doing another. There we are. Ben's just put the race director courses on the chat there. We'll share it afterwards as well. We will be doing another webinar after Christmas. So obviously some of you I might not talk to before Christmas, and although it's mid-November, happy Christmas for those of you who are there. I'm getting in early with mine. But thanks very much for attending today. It's really good to hear from you all, hear all the different questions, and hope it's been useful for you. But I bid you all a good evening. Thanks very much for coming along.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.